Imagine the question that keeps echoing inside your chest, the one that refuses to leave you alone in nights of insomnia when silence makes your thoughts unbearably loud. Who are we? Where do we come from? This question has haunted humanity for centuries, yet the answers we were given have always carried the weight of doctrine or the cold calculation of science. But what if neither sacred texts nor sterile laboratories hold the key? What if the truth has always been so simple, so overwhelming that it had to be hidden, not out of cruelty, but because it cannot be controlled? There exists a truth that once glimpsed can never be unseen, a revelation that can make you feel smaller than dust, and yet as vast as infinity itself. It is the truth that a man once dared to look in the eye when he confronted not only the mystery of death, but the very enigma of our origin. His name was Baruch Spinoza. He lived in exile, condemned for his ideas, yet in his solitude, he dared to see further than most. He saw what others refused to see, and what he discovered does not merely challenge our assumptions, it shakes the foundations of what it means to be alive. This is not a story about evolution versus religion, not another battle between faith and science. It is a journey into the heart of existence itself, a voyage that demands you stay until the very end. Because what you are about to hear is not just a theory. It is a chance to set down the unbearable weight of your past and the suffocating fear of your future. If you have ever felt like a misplaced fragment in an indifferent universe, prepare yourself. You are about to discover that you have always belonged, but not in the way you imagine. Since the moment we opened our eyes to the world, a single idea has been whispered into us through stories, traditions, and even the way we speak about ourselves, that we are special. The universe, we are told, waited for us, prepared itself for our arrival, crowned us as the masterpiece, the final chapter, the reason for all that exists. It is a tale that nourishes our ego, comforting us with the belief that our lives are at the very center of creation. But then comes Spinoza, his logic sharp and merciless like a blade of steel. He does not flatter us with sweet illusions. Instead, he looks directly into our pride and names it for what it is: poison. To him, believing we are the pinnacle of creation is no different than imagining a mountain convinced that the entire earth was molded just so it could rise into the sky. It is an illusion, a perspective so narrow that it blinds us to the immensity of reality. The truth, though painful, is infinitely more astonishing. We are not perched at the top of a cosmic pyramid shining above all else. We are threads woven into an endless tapestry, fragile strands in a story without beginning or end. We are not the protagonists of the universe's drama, but single words on a page that stretches far beyond our comprehension. Our existence does not weigh more than that of a star pulsing in the distance, an ant tracing its path across the soil, or a blade of grass trembling in the wind. This realization hurts because it forces us to descend from the imaginary throne where we placed ourselves. Yet in the very moment we lower our heads, something unexpected begins to happen. We feel the lightness of no longer having to carry the crown. If you are not the center of everything, then you are free from the crushing burden of pretending to be. There is no need to fulfill a grand destiny scripted by unseen hands. You do not need to prove yourself worthy of existence. Your only task is the simplest and the most profound: to be what you already are, an instant of the living universe conscious for a brief flicker of time. Beneath the illusion of being special lies another deception, one even more deeply rooted in our way of seeing the world: the belief that we are separate. We grow up imagining there is a line drawn between ourselves and everything else, between humanity and nature, between our fragile bodies and the infinite cosmos. We speak as though we were visitors passing through, strangers dropped into a foreign land, clinging to the idea that we are somehow apart from the ground beneath our feet and the stars above our heads. Spinoza tears this illusion apart with a simplicity that feels almost frightening. He would tell you, breathe. The air that just filled your lungs, does it belong to you, or does it belong to the outside world? Drink a glass of water. Feel it enter your body, becoming your blood, your cells, your very being. Where does the water end, and where do you begin? The borders dissolve. The separation was always an invention of our senses, a trick of the mind. You are not a guest in the universe. You are the universe itself, folding in on its own mystery, asking questions through human eyes. You are made of the same matter that burns in distant galaxies, the same energy that lifts the tides and sets planets in motion. To believe otherwise is to cling to a mirage. Think of a wave rising in the sea. For a moment it seems to stand apart, crowned with white foam, distinct and unique. But it is nothing more than the ocean itself taking a temporary shape. The wave appears, dances briefly, and then disappears, returning to what it always was. You are that wave. You have never been exiled from the cosmos. You have always been its pulse, its breath, its fleeting gesture. And when you realize this, a great loneliness begins to dissolve. How can you ever feel abandoned if you are literally a fragment of everything that exists? The fear of being lost fades because you cannot lose what you have never left. Your home is not a place. Your home is the entire universe, and you are already within it. And yet, even when the lies of specialness and separation fall away, another remains the most seductive of them all. It is the belief that we were born to fulfill a purpose written somewhere beyond us, inscribed in the stars, or handed down by a hidden creator. From childhood, we are taught to search for that mission, to chase the elusive meaning that promises to justify our existence. And with each year that passes, the weight of that search grows heavier, until it feels like a shadow looming over every choice we make. Spinoza shatters this illusion with the clarity of someone who dares to strip away our last comfort. Stop searching, he tells us. There is no manual of instructions for your life, no cosmic contract dictating what you must accomplish. A tree has no destiny beyond being a tree. A river does not flow because it was assigned a task. It flows because that is its nature. So too with you. Your purpose is not hidden in the distance waiting to be discovered. It is already here. It is to exist, to persist, to live as fully as you can in this fragile moment. This realization, though radical, is profoundly liberating. Life is not a test you must pass to earn some final reward. Life itself is the reward. You are not a soldier sent on a mission, nor a pilgrim carrying out a secret plan. You are a being of flesh and thought of joy and pain, and your purpose lies in the very act of experiencing it all. And consider this: how much of your anxiety, your sleepless nights, your desperate striving comes from the fear that you are failing some hidden destiny. Spinoza takes that burden from your shoulders and crushes it into dust. There never was a mission to complete. There was only this breath, this heartbeat, this flicker of awareness in which you are allowed to live, to feel, to suffer, to love. That is enough. That has always been enough. Once the three great illusions collapse, what remains is not emptiness but clarity, the unveiling of a truth so simple we have overlooked it all along. Our origin is not buried in the dust of a distant past, not hidden in a mythical garden or in a primordial soup of millions of years ago. Spinoza reveals that our origin is unfolding in this very moment. Right now, as your heart beats, it is not merely your body at work. It is the cosmos itself pulsing through you. Every breath you take is the universe drawing air. Every thought in your mind is nature reflecting upon itself. You are not a finished product abandoned by creation. You are the very process of creation happening here and now. This vision transforms even the way we see death. Death is no longer the abrupt end of a personal story, but the continuation of a cosmic rhythm. Just as a wave rises from the ocean only to return to it, you too will dissolve back into the whole. The energy that animates you, the matter that composes you, will never vanish. It will reappear in the spark of new stars, in the roots of trees, perhaps even in the consciousness of beings yet to be born. In this light, immortality is not a distant promise, but a reality we already inhabit, the continuous becoming of the universe through us. And when you let this truth sink into your bones, fear itself begins to shift. The terror of being forgotten, of disappearing into nothing, is replaced by the wonder of knowing that you can never truly vanish. You are part of a cycle too vast to be broken. Your life is not a straight line with a tragic ending. It is a pulse, a vibration in the infinite heart of being. To have the privilege of being aware of this pulse, even for a fleeting instant, is the greatest of miracles. But the mind resists. If we are truly part of a perfect whole, why do we suffer? Why does life ache with injustice, with cruelty, with loss? Spinoza asks us to take a step beyond the narrow window of our human perspective. Imagine being a single cell in a body. A wound appears and suddenly white blood cells rush to the site, pain flares, tissue dies. From the point of view of those cells, it is senseless destruction. But from the perspective of the whole organism, it is healing the body, defending itself. We are like those cells seeing only fragments of processes too immense for us to grasp and labeling them evil or unfair. For Spinoza, suffering is real. He names it sadness, the transition to a state of diminished power. Pain signals that something threatens our ability to persist. But the venom lies not in pain itself, but in the story we weave around it. The questions of why me and it isn't fair double our torment, chaining us to resentment. Liberation begins when we stop demanding the universe obey our rules and start seeing that things happen not for moral reasons, but because the causes that produce them exist. This is not insensitivity, it is freedom. It is the end of a useless struggle, the chance to use all our strength in shaping our response instead of cursing reality. And then comes love, that other great mystery. Is it only an illusion that will vanish like the wave? Spinoza answers with a gentleness rare in his cold logic. Love is not false. It is one of the most powerful and life-giving forces we can feel. He defines it as joy accompanied by the idea of another person as its cause. Love makes us more alive, and therefore it is good. The danger comes when we mistake it for possession, when we place the key to our happiness in someone else's pocket and call it love. That is not freedom, he warns, it is slavery. True love, wise love, is different. It is the recognition of eternal qualities, kindness, strength, intelligence, humor manifested through a person, but not belonging solely to them. And when that person leaves, when death inevitably arrives, the sorrow is real, but it is not absolute. Those qualities remain alive in the universe, alive in others, alive within us. Love then transforms from desperate dependency to immense gratitude for having glimpsed eternity through another being. In this transformation, pain is not erased but illuminated, and from it we gain the freedom to love again. Now we arrive at the most feared frontier, death. What becomes of us when the final breath leaves our body? For centuries we have been consoled by stories of radiant tunnels of light, of eternal reunions, of a personal self preserved beyond the grave. But Spinoza tears away this comforting veil with unflinching honesty. When the body ceases, the delicate pattern of energy and memory that we call I dissolves. The voice inside your head with its fears and loves, its triumphs and regrets, goes silent. There is no secret journey waiting beyond, no stage upon which the ego continues its performance. The wave returns to the ocean. The form vanishes, but the substance remains. At first this strikes like an icy blow. It feels like annihilation, like falling into nothingness. But Spinoza urges us to look deeper past the terror of losing ourselves. He replaces the promise of survival with something infinitely greater: true immortality. Picture a river winding for hundreds of miles, carving valleys, nourishing life, carrying minerals to the sea. When at last it meets the ocean, the river as a river disappears, yet everything it carried enriches the whole. The river is not destroyed, it is fulfilled. So it is with us. Our essence does not persist as a preserved ego, but as the impact of our lives echoing endlessly. Every act of kindness you gave, every truth you uncovered, every moment of beauty you created, every love you shared, none of it is lost. These become part of the vast ocean woven into the universe itself, continuing as causes that ripple forward into countless effects. This is the immortality Spinoza offers, not the survival of a name etched on stone, but the endurance of your influence, your contribution to the great chain of being. And here lies the paradox: by surrendering the illusion of personal eternity, we gain something more powerful than all promises of paradise. We see that our lives matter not because they escape death, but because every instant leaves a mark on the infinite. You are not a fleeting shadow doomed to vanish. You are a river whose waters nourish eternity. If death is not the end but a transformation, then the next question presses upon us: what then is the meaning of life? Here Spinoza hands us a concept as old as Latin, yet as alive as our own breath. Conatus. It is the inner drive, the silent force urging every being to persist, to grow, to become more. A stone resists breaking, a flower bends toward the sun, an animal fights to survive. And we as humans carry this same pulse, but with a difference. We are not only beings that endure, we are beings that think, that feel, that reflect. Our conatus is to expand not only our physical existence, but also our capacity to understand, to act, to create. Most of humanity drifts in passivity, reacting like leaves tossed by the wind. An insult sparks anger, bad news breeds fear, and the tides of chance drag us where they will. In this state, our emotions rule us not as allies, but as masters, chaining us to weakness. Spinoza calls these passions sad, for they reduce our power, diminish our being. But there is another path. When we begin to understand the causes behind what happens to us, something shifts. Anger dissolves into compassion. Fear transforms into clarity. Suddenly we are not leaves, but captains of a vessel steering even in the fiercest storm. This is the practical key. Life's meaning is not found in chasing external missions, but in moving from passivity to activity, from being at the mercy of events to being the author of our responses. Joy in this sense is not a fleeting pleasure granted by luck. It is a deep expansion of power born from comprehension. It is the serenity of knowing you are aligned with the very fabric of nature. And from this alignment arises what Spinoza calls beatitudo. Not happiness in the shallow sense, but a profound, steady joy. The peace of the ocean itself, rather than the brief thrill of a wave. It is the quiet exaltation of living in harmony with the whole, of recognizing that your life's task is not to fulfill a script, but to cultivate freedom, understanding, and love. In this, the true meaning of life is revealed, to transform fear into wisdom, weakness into strength, and fleeting time into eternal significance. At last, we face the most unsettling question of all. Why are we here? For millennia, humans have searched for an answer outside themselves, convinced that existence must rest upon a grand design, a hidden architect, a divine purpose. But Spinoza confronts us with a revelation so stark, so radical, it feels like the ground beneath us crumbles. We are here for no external reason. The universe does not operate with intentions. It does not plan. It does not plot. It simply is a chain of causes and effects flowing endlessly without a destination. At first, this answer seems unbearable. If there is no reason, no script, no cosmic mission, then does that not make life meaningless? Yet here lies the paradox. It is precisely this absence of external purpose that frees us. Without a plan imposed from above, we cannot fail. There is no exam to pass, no judge waiting to weigh our deeds. The crushing anxiety of not living up to some invisible standard evaporates. We are returned to ourselves, liberated to craft meaning with our own hands. And this is where Spinoza's philosophy becomes more than abstract reasoning. It becomes a guide to living. Our true task is not to obey, but to create. We are not characters acting out someone else's script. We are the writers. Our sacred work is to transform suffering into wisdom, fear into love, weakness into power. This is not poetry, it is the alchemy of the human soul. Think of what this means. Every challenge you face, every wound you endure, every joy that floods your heart, becomes raw material for the forging of freedom. You are not here to worship distant heavens, but to embody divinity itself through understanding, through compassion, through the courage to be free. The universe did not assign you a role, it gave you something greater, the capacity to choose your own. And so the final truth emerges not as a soothing tale, but as a demand. If life has no given meaning, then its meaning is the one you create. And in that act of creation, you discover not emptiness, but the most profound responsibility and the most radiant joy. Now the journey reaches its final movement, but not its end. We began with illusions of specialness, of separation, of a destiny imposed from beyond. We dismantled them one by one, and what seemed at first like loss revealed itself as freedom. We discovered that our origin is not in some distant past, but in the living heartbeat of this very moment, that death is not an annihilation, but a transformation, and that immortality is not the survival of ego, but the endurance of what we give to the universe. We learned that meaning is not handed to us, it is ours to create every day, every breath. And so the question remains, how will you live? Will you drift like a leaf carried helplessly by winds you do not understand? Or will you grasp the helm of your own vessel, using even the storms to sail where you choose? The greatest preparation for death is not to fear it, but to forget it, to plunge so deeply into life, into love, into knowledge, that when the final moment arrives, it does not find you trembling with regret, but smiling with gratitude for the privilege of having been. This is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of your story. What you do with this truth is yours alone. But remember, your legacy will not be your name carved in stone. It will be the ripples of kindness, the sparks of wisdom, the traces of love you leave behind. Those will outlive you. Those will become part of eternity. If this journey has awakened something in you, If it has lifted even a fragment of the weight you carried, then let it spread. Share it, subscribe, let others who search in silence find the same light. And before you leave, I leave you with one question, the one that will decide everything in the face of life and death, in the face of freedom and choice. Will you live as a shadow, or will you dare to live as the universe itself awake within you?